stay seated and keep your phones off during our speakers. And because it is birthday night, we have 3 speakers this evening. And our first speaker, drum roll, is Megan. Please welcome Megan.
Hi everyone, my name's Megan and I'm an alcoholic. Oh, thank you. I am tall, by the way. I'm 6 foot tall, so please don't ask me after the meeting, okay? I've been asked that a lot. Okay, so now since I have the platform for it. So, my sobriety date is August 1st, 2024. And I haven't, even though I haven't drank, though, it's been almost 4 years. And I do hold that sobriety date really close to me. I'm really grateful to not have picked up a drink because that was definitely my drug of choice. I did, however, stray away from the program and think that I could do things on my own, and that's when I started taking the power back and then thinking maybe I'll be just like California sober, it's fine. I wouldn't recommend it, guys. I really wouldn't. It's not worth it, and it makes you even more paranoid than weed does as it is. So I'm just gonna tell my story. Okay, where do I begin? I guess I'll begin at the beginning. So I moved around a lot as a kid. My parents are aviation mechanics, so they got laid off a lot, so we would have to move often. I have a twin sister, though. That made it easier because we could just start at new schools together. So I have an alcoholic parent, and my parents were working quite often. There was a point, I don't know, probably around 5th, maybe 6th grade, when my mom wasn't as present, so my dad was probably working more to make up for that, and then that's when there was just less supervision and more mischief. I think sorry, it's so funny because I came here for the first time last week just to kind of get a lay of the land, and I was like, as long as there's not a stage, I should be good. And it's like a spotlight. I'm like, all right, sure, why not? We'll do it. I'm just trying to remember that if I was here on my terms, I would be in the shadows, lurking in the back for the rest of my life. And I think that being up here just is testament to how much the program has helped me and how it takes me out of myself and helps my higher power work through me. And I'm not thinking about myself as much. I'm just doing what my higher power wants me to do. And it's their will. So I just have to remind myself of stuff like that so I don't go crazy. Okay, where was I? So, less supervision, ended up moving to Wyoming from Tucson when I was 12 or 13. Definitely wasn't happy about that. Had to make that clear to my dad through my actions. And then, just typical teenage stuff, dyeing your hair, and then starting to not come back home as often. And I think my first drink was when I was 13, and that definitely changed things for me. I was able to feel like everyone else. I always thought that I was too different, and I would always feel like I was full of fear. I didn't realize till later in my life that I was like scared a lot. Like I was always really quiet and really tense, and now I realize that was a lot of fear. But when I had alcohol, the fear really went away, and it felt like I was in love, and it felt like I wanted to be alone with that feeling, and I didn't want like anyone to get in the way of it, and it was super powerful, and I still remember that feeling really vividly. So I was able to like hold it down for a while after I drank for the first time, just kind of normal drinking at parties when I was a teen. And then it just got progressively worse in my early 20s. Just started getting in trouble with the cops and going to jail. And it's kind of crazy the things that you think are going to cause you to stop drinking, but they don't. And then the thing that causes you to stop is really like so trivial. Like the things that happened, you know, seeing my dad and my sister cry for the first time, and you'd think that would get you sober. Or, I mean, even like taking my dog to the bar and like leaving my dog there overnight and finding them tied to a dumpster the next morning. And I'm like, I thought that would get me sober. No. Getting 2 DUIs a week apart and being in an orange jumpsuit, walking out of an elevator, first person I see is my dad, just shackles around my wrist and my ankles. Like you would think these things would get you sober, but they don't. I think it was really just until I called uncle, is what someone said at a meeting yesterday. It's like, I remember toward the last year of my drinking, I would have to take pills and stuff like that in order to cope with it and be able to get to work. And the job that I had was just so bad for my mental health as it is. Like I was working in behavioral health, and I was taking care of teenage boys. And that's like insane to me. That like I literally found like my biggest fear is just teenagers, teenage boys. Like that, I don't know. I sometimes wonder why I put myself in those situations, and I really prided myself of being a very patient person. But I really wasn't patient. I was just seeing how much I could endure, because that would make the next drink taste that much better. Like it really would. So I put myself through some crazy experiences, thought it was just like good exposure. I need to see the world, experience as much as I can, but turns out like that actually does leave a lingering effect. And I think, toward the end, I remember just like sleeping next to a kitchen knife, because I thought that like that was the only thing I had control of. That was the only way. Like if it got too bad, I could just end it right there. That's fine. It does make me emotional to think about that, because it was really hard toward the end. And then that's the night before I decided on going to rehab, my friend said, "Why don't you just try to stop?" I said, "I would rather die than stop." And she was like so taken back by that. And the next day she just suggested, maybe you should just get help. That was the first time it had ever been suggested to me at 27. And, you know, I thought, wow, that honestly didn't cross my mind, which is insane. That is the insanity of alcoholism. You thought that like that was just your story, just to drink until you die, and you just thought that was it. And I think there was a point there where I thought I was gonna die young, so I might as well. Like, I don't know about you, but the drinking definitely is really fun at first when you realize, like when you accept that you're not gonna live very long, like when you make up that decision. Luckily I'm still here. And gosh, I loved rehab. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I did. Honestly, it was like I was in a bubble away from the world and able to fully work on myself and be able to face all the demons that I've been avoiding and repressing for so long. And I mean, 24/7 attention, I mean, that's not bad either. They're even checking on, waking you up in the morning to check your vitals. If you have nightmares, they had medication for that. I mean, seriously, I was babied. It was nice while it lasted, but it wasn't the real world at all. Turns out. But it really did set me up for a whole new lifestyle. And like Bill says, your roots need to bear new soil. And I really do think that is something that's happening here. I really did just move to Prescott on a whim, like 3.5 years ago. I was in Wyoming, college town, where I did most of my drinking, and started just Googling places that are sober. So Dr. Google helped me out with that. And I used to live in Tucson, so I thought, okay, fine. We'll go back to Arizona. And at first, it was really hard in sobriety, which could have been why I relapsed, because I wasn't able to wait any longer. I was just so tense and angry, and I felt really lost. Thank you. But I just held out. I know that I wasn't able to stay completely sober, but I still didn't pick up a drink. And that blows my mind. It blows my mind that I'm up here. Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. But I was able to not pick up a drink. And I did some really hard stuff, separated from my partner and had to say bye to my dog. They moved away, and, all this stuff doesn't hurt nearly as bad as it would have if I was drinking still. Now you feel it, and you feel it all the way through. You feel it, and then you deal with it, and then you heal from it. You don't have to suffer, so. And the speaker said last week, misery is a choice. It really doesn't have to be the case. And I always test that theory, how much little can I do in the program and still be happy? All I'm saying is it doesn't work. You have to follow the suggestions and actually show up. But it feels really good when you do. And I think that's all I have tonight.
Oh, she really is tall. Let's welcome our next speaker, Ellie.
Hello, my name is Ellie. I'm an alcoholic. First off, I want to say that I'm very grateful to be able to speak to all of you guys tonight. A little bit about myself. I grew up in New York, had a normal childhood. I'm the only child, raised by 2 loving parents that I'm extremely grateful for. I graduated high school, went to college, had a good job. I first picked up a drink when I was around 19, 20 years old, where I drank socially on weekends. And then it got worse, where I started to drink to black out and wake up and not know where I was. It started affecting my job, and it just got worse. So my parents decided to move to Arizona, and they encouraged me to move there. And so I did, and I continued drinking there. And but I was lost, and I felt like I was drinking to fill a void. I knew nobody. I didn't know anyone or anything. And I started using other substances, and I got in trouble with the law right away. I was put on probation. I went to a program called Drug Court. And this is where I first got introduced to AA, where I, started reading the big book, doing the 12 steps, getting a sponsor. And I did that, I was really happy, I was starting my life over. And after 15 months, I graduated the program, and as soon as I got off paper, I relapsed. And my disease just got a lot worse. I moved to Phoenix. I got sober for 60 days, in and out of rehabs, went to jail a couple of times. And I started, I went through experiences that I never thought I would go through, like violence, abuse, being homeless. One time I got really ill. I had to go to the hospital, and my blood count was a 3, and they thought they had to give me blood transfusions right away. They said my organs were shutting down, and then they found 2 pulmonary emblems in my leg that shot up to my lungs, and I had to be put on blood thinners. And it was in the hospital for 2 months. I had to learn how to walk again, so it was pretty brutal. I also started to isolate myself. I got into heavier, dangerous substances that made me, I locked myself in my room. I didn't talk to anybody. I would just, I started going down a deeper and deeper hole, and I started to lose hope. I had this false sense of content, this was going to be the rest of my life forever. So I moved to North Carolina, and I'm going to bring this up. Fentanyl was a big part of my story at the end. I did use that and to try to substitute other things in the way I was doing them, and thought that was a better idea. And that was my rock bottom. Some traumatic events happened in North Carolina where I was forced to move back to Prescott, and where my parents live. And I had to come clean to them and tell them what was going on, that I was going to go through withdrawals. And I've never been through something like that before. My parents have never seen me. I felt like I was going to crawl out of my skin. I wanted to knock myself unconscious. It was just very scary for me. And so I ended up going to treatment, and it was a culture shock for me. I wasn't used to being around people and large groups of people, and it was hard at the beginning to adapt. So I went to another treatment center that focused on dual diagnosis and mental health, and there I met my sponsor and started working the 12 steps, and it completely changed my life. There's a couple of things in my sobriety that are really important to me. First is my higher power. And I always believed in a higher power. I feel like he was in my life when I was sick. There's somehow that I'm alive today, and I'm grateful for my higher power for that. And also when I got arrested, my higher power wanted me to go on a different path, and I ignored him. And now I have this true connection where I believe that I'm living in God's will today. And I pray, and my spirituality, I like to go out in nature and clear my mind. Also, meetings is very important to me. They say meetings makers make it, and I truly believe that. In my early sobriety, before I started working, I had a lot of time, and so I tried to fill up my day with meetings. I would go to meetings at least 1 or 2 times a day, and I believe that saved my life. Fellowship is also really important to me. began to get strong relationships with people, honest friends, sober friends. They helped me branch out, connect with people like all of you guys, I can relate to. And I treasure that a lot. Let's see, I'm drawing a blank for a minute. I feel like I did a 180. I'm a completely changed person. Going through the 12 steps, I am also able to, I got the opportunity to sponsor other women, which gives me a totally different perspective on recovery, and it's an amazing feeling to go through that. I'm just amazed that I'm up here right now being able to speak to all of you guys. Like, I never thought I could do that. And I hope that I touched at least one person here. And thank you for letting me share.
Awesome. Thank you, Ellie. And last but not least, let's welcome Nick.
I'm Nick, I'm an alcoholic. Usually I sit in the back over there, and I wish I was there now. I don't like being up here, but that's okay. So what I know to be true today is that like what I like and what I think doesn't really matter is that much, My sobriety date's January 26, 2022, and it's not the first time I got sober. The reason that I mentioned that it's not the first time I got sober is because I oftentimes analyze my track record, like my history, and it's rough. Like I'm not batting 1,000, I'm 34 years old. I've been sentenced to prison 5 times, all as a result of my drinking and other stuff. I'm told I can casually mention drug use without breaking the principles, so I'm also an IV heroin and meth addict. And so when I look back at my history, like I just don't do that well. I heard someone in a meeting the other week, they were like, today I don't do things like based on how I feel. And that was what I was doing. I was running through my life on a whim, treating people however I needed to treat them to get what I wanted from them, If you weren't contributing to my next drink, knowingly or unknowingly, like I didn't have you around, Today that's not the case. So I said I'm 34. I started drinking probably when I was 12. I don't remember my first drink. I remember my first other substance because it was like a spiritual experience, but I don't remember my first drink. But I do, I do know that I drink for the effect. Like I want to get messed up fast for cheap, so I drink Steel Reserve. Not like this other guy was saying this at a speaker meeting the other week. Not the Foo Steel Reserve. I drink the silver can, and I drink it warm because I don't deserve cold beer. Like I just hate myself. You know what I mean? So I drink it warm, and then halfway down the 40, because I have to drink a 40 because I can't drink a can. Halfway down the 40, I just tell myself it's Kool-Aid or whatever. You don't even taste it after half a 40 of Steel Reserve. And then, vodka too. Not like nice vodka either. I've never drank in a bar. That's a funny part of my story. That sounds horrible, Why would I pay? It doesn't compute, right? Money to booze ratio. So I go spend $10 on a gallon bottle of Colson's from Walgreens. And I just drink till I black out, Which brings me to a weird correlation. The way that I drank kind of within recent weeks, it's been where's the sign guy? There you are, okay. It's been teaching me. I've been thinking about my drinking, and it's it helps me realize it has a weird correlation with surrender for me today. And what I mean by that is when I would drink the way that I drank, as soon as I crack the lid, I don't know what's gonna happen, I don't know where I'm gonna end up. I have a funny story. It's funny now, but it was scary when it happened. I wake up and I'm naked in someone's yard, and their dog is attacking me, and he's got his gun drawn on me, and it's the middle of the night. And last thing I knew, I was drinking at my house, and the sun was up. You know what I mean? And so, like, that's what happens to me. I'll also casually mention that's the only time I ever spilled heroin, and that was horrible. But anyway, I don't know what's going to happen. And then, you know, my girlfriend has to come, the ambulance comes, the cops come, she has to lie and tell them that I'm off my medication, that I get really bad when I'm off my medication, you know what I mean? And so she gets me in the car and gets me home and just enables the heck out of me, and then I get to go on drinking, you know? That's what it was like for me. I drank and drove, you know? I didn't drink and drive because I thought I was better at driving. I just drank and drove because I couldn't wait to drink until I got back from wherever I was driving, you know? I just not having alcohol every second of the day for me was just unacceptable, you know? I don't care. I've taken my ex-girlfriend's daughter to school with a beer in the console. She was scared, you know what I mean? And that was just I'm do you want me to take her to school or not? Do you want her to walk? What do you think? Me not drinking for that, it's probably 15 minutes was just unheard of. And that's the kind of drinker that I am, you know? To talk about powerlessness, I mentioned that I've been to prison a bunch of times, and so I've also been in the program a bunch of times. And I can remember my last relapse, which really broke me, you know, my last relapse and subsequent consequences from that relapse, some could call it a bottom. I choose not to call it a bottom because I know that I can keep digging if I want to, you know what I mean? I just don't want to today. But my last relapse, it was chair a meeting in the morning, go to work, see a sponsee, and then that night, I had no idea I was going to be faced with a drink that night. And I remember I was past the drink, and I had this thought. I was like, call your sponsor. And I was 20, I was 2.5 years sober. Call your sponsor. And then I was like, I'm young enough to go back to prison. And I drank. You know what I mean? That was it. That was the thought. I could probably do under 10 years and still have a life, you know? And I drank because I knew that's powerlessness and unmanageability for me. I know that if I drink one sip, I'm going to prison because I don't stop. That's powerlessness. I do not stop. I was arrested in this parking lot right here across this street. My most recent arrest, and they put handcuffs on me. Still, if somebody had something in the cell, I wouldn't have stopped. You know what I mean? And we know how they get stuff into cells. But anyway, you can lock me in a box. You can put handcuffs on me, kidnap me, put me in a car and lock me in a box, and I'm still probably going to drink if I can. You know what I mean? So I guess I say all that to say that that's not how I live today, right? I don't drink, obviously. It's been over 3 years since I've drank. I'm okay with the fact that I don't drink. I don't think about drinking ever. I don't wake up in the morning and dread the day. I actually care about people today, you know, which is strange and weird to get used to. I'm actually going to another fellowship now because I realized, okay, I had this experience, and the book talks about it. It's a vital spiritual experience. If you're not going to read the book, I understand. I didn't read the book. And then I figured out that the book was about me, and then I started reading the book. You know what I mean? Because I'm pretty selfish. So I was like, oh man, that they're actually talking about me. I could dig that. I'll read it now, you know. But I suffered for 10 years before I read it. So anyway, this experience that came about, it just made its way into my life on the back end of an enormous amount of pain, right? And so I believe for me in my story, pain is my motivator. My willingness, we talk about honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, I paid dearly for my willingness, you know? And lots of other people paid dearly for me to become willing to do this deal and become a better man. I hurt a lot of people. So about this experience, right? Like today I'm different. Why am I different? And I can honestly say that, like, just to the brink, and I appreciate your emotion, like sharing about suicide, that I was there, I attempted suicide by cop, and luckily I was tased. Unfortunately, at the time I was not happy about being tased because it hurt really bad. And and then pain ensued, and I was in county jail and in prison during COVID, and COVID was messed up out here. I get it was messed up out here, but it was messed up in prison. COVID was rough in there, and it broke me. So I reached this point, and I'm sitting in prison one day, and I'm using heroin, and this guy tells me, big old dude, just typical prison dude, tattoos. He tells me, man, if you don't stop using that stuff, you might as well not even leave here, And I was like, fuck. I was like, I cussed. I was like, that makes sense. And so I became willing. To do this work, right? And my spiritual experience began to take place. Fast forward a few years, I'm out here. I don't have to drink, I don't have to use, and I'm okay with that. Other people matter now. I came to this conclusion. This conclusion that, like, okay, so God gave me this. I choose to call it God. God gave me this experience, and I don't ever have to drink and use again, and that means I don't ever have to go back to prison. So that means, like, every year or two, I don't get to, like, run away from everybody and go on a vacation. Like, I have to be out here with you guys, and I have to get by and, like, treat you right because I got to see you, like, at the store and shit, and, like, sorry. And so that takes me into my, like, this other fellowship I'm attending, but it also brings me, like, more in tune with my step process because just really quick, like, once I started doing this work and I became willing, and I only became willing because I felt a sufficient amount of pain, right? And luckily I didn't die first. Once I felt the sufficient amount of pain and I became willing, I started to realize that these steps were like something I actually had to do, right? So I started investigating what spiritual principles are to me, what a higher power is to me. And I figured out, thanks to, like, steps 4 through 10, that everything, like, starts in here, It all starts in here. The reason I drank starts in here. The reason I'm not going to drink starts in here. The power that's going to save me, it's in here, So I seek within today, with y'all's help, with the triangle, unity, service, recovery. One big deal for me was when I realized, and I hope that you guys don't have to experience this, but it's what it took for me. I realized sitting in prison that no one cares anymore what happens to me, right? Like my sister, my youngest sister, she's like, I don't care if you're alive, dead. I don't care if you're sober or drunk, in jail or not. She's like, I just don't care, right? And slowly that grew to everyone in my life. And I realized, like, I was sitting there and that guy told me that, and I decided to stop getting loaded. And I realized no one cares, man. Like, here I sit, ready to get sober in prison. I'm ready to do this. No one cares. No one cares anymore, right? I could keep going. I could keep drinking and using right now. No one cares. And then all of a sudden I had this revelation, and I choose to call it my spiritual experience. I was like, but I care, right? Like, do I care enough? And then, they talk about you can't do this program for others. That is when this program became for me, Once I broke enough hearts and caused enough pain and pushed everybody away, I realized that I want to be sober. Like, I want to be here with you guys doing this for me, because I want to live. And that's a beautiful thing. And real quick, I'll just say that the only reason that I knew to come back to here, to AA in particular, is because I've been thoroughly 12-stepped by people for the last 15 years, They've loved me. They've They were there when I tried marijuana maintenance. They were there when I did my first prison term, my second prison term, my third. These were the only people in my life. AA is my life, you know. Literally every facet of my existence, the man I live with, the person I work with, you know, anyone in my phone, right? It's all this program, you know, and therefore my life, in my understanding, is all God then, because I choose to believe God shows up through you guys. I really wish you'd put that sign up right now. He did? Oh, thank you. I'm gonna pass.